What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning in back to another video. Today is part 2 of the series on how to shave your engine bay. Now this can be applied to Hondas, Acuras, BMWs, Volkswagens, whatever car you're really working on. It's more of a tutorial about the science behind it, not exactly for a specific chassis. That being said, we are here at Advanced Auto Parts. It's my local parts store here in Palm Coast. And we are gonna check out some stuff today. I really wanna get to stripping the engine bay itself. So before we do any welding onto the plates that we made up yesterday, I want to get some stuff like some sandpaper, some aircraft paint remover, and just really the basic stuff. Alright, I'm here in the paint section. Let's see. Alright, here's the aircraft paint remover. They got the big one, the small one. I'm actually going to use the spray one just because it's going to be a lot easier to get onto all those little crevices in the engine bay. If you want, you can use that, but you really need to use a brush if you're using that one. It has more in that container, but this one just makes it so much easier. So I'll probably get this. I'm pretty sure I have some sandpaper already, but then we'll end up getting a little scraper as well. We got my man Oscar over here. What's up, Oscar?
Hey, what's up, bud?
How you doing, brother?
Good to see you.
You too, you too.
Welcome back.
Thanks, bro. Aircraft, and I'll get one of these scrapers too. Make it a whole lot easier.
Nice.
Sweet. All right, so we are back in the garage right now. I have a little stool along with an old fuel container just set up to put my tripod on. For today, we're mainly gonna be working on stripping the engine bay like I mentioned earlier. I do still have the pieces of metal that are gonna get welded in eventually, although we're not gonna really be touching that today. I wanna demonstrate very quickly, just tell you what I'll be doing. Right over here, you can tell that there is some type of dust. And this is a little bit of paint mixed in, but most of it, 99% of it, is the actual seam sealer, which I've obviously taken off right there. You can have a demonstration of what it looks like right here. It's essentially wherever there is two pieces of metal that get spot welded together. Here's a good example. Each little dimple right there is a spot weld that holds each sheet metal together. They normally seam seal it just to keep out any type of moisture, any vibration gets dampened through that and whatnot. Which now that we're going to be bondoing the whole engine bay along with welding on the plates, we're not going to be using that, and it does look aesthetically unpleasing. So we really want to get rid of all of that. There are a few portions on the engine bay, like I said, right here that I've already taken off. I didn't do a total job of it last time when we did paint the engine bay. You can see right here I took off most of it, and there is still some down here as well as the whole seam over there. And we really want to just go in depth and clean up as much as we can. So I am going to set the time lapse right now. I'm not going to do too much of dragging along, just you guys seeing me scrub it for an hour. So I'll just set the time lapse and you guys can actually follow along, seeing me do it along over the period of the next minute or two. This one right here is a large wire wheel. Obviously, since it is bigger in diameter, these strands aren't as strong, they're not as sturdy. So it's going to be better to use that just for small portions that maybe you want to get into little crevices. But for areas with a lot of seam sealer, I think that the best to use is the smaller one, since the teeth on it, or the strands, however you want to call it, are a lot stronger and can really aggressively take off that seam sealer. And of course, I'm going to use protective gear with this. I have a little face shield. If I had a mask, I would, because all that little powder can get everywhere, but honestly forgot to pick it up at the store earlier, as well as some gloves, just to try to get as, or try to stay at least as clean as possible. Alright, let's get forward to the next day. I actually had to head to work, so I wasn't able to work on that last night. I am about to continue on the engine bay right now. You can see I got a lot of the seam sealer out, almost all of it from under the engine bay, or in the engine bay, excuse me. The main part that I need to get is around that entrance for the actual compartment, the passenger compartment. That's where the steering rack actually goes in through. And then little areas like right there over top on the firewall. You can see that I already started getting some of it over there. But before that, I am going to start taking more components out of the engine bay, which is going to be the brake booster, the throttle cable, and the clutch master, along with the line for the slave that I have sitting right there. I really want to get everything inside of here as well. Also, I have this big hole from a couple years ago when I tried to do a wire tuck, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I had passed wires in through right there, and then I cut a hole right there and had them go through the outside before I actually knew how to do it the clean way and the correct way. So I'm going to patch that up in the next couple days as well, but I really want to get everything taken out. Since I am taking off the booster, I guess I'll be taking off that brake line as well. That's just basically a little line that I had made when I was in a pinch last year, and we couldn't get the correct size line, and I really just wanted to get it out and driving. But this time around, I really want to do like the finishing line, I think it's called. Josh from Finishing Line, if I'm not mistaken, has some tucked hardware and tucked brake lines for people who want to make the clean look, as well as people who want to do drag racing and whatnot. So I'll probably end up doing the booster delete kit as well as the lines. I just haven't, you know, decided on what delete kit I want to run yet, but yeah, I'm gonna take this all apart right now. I'm not gonna record too much in depth just because it's pretty simple, especially on this type of car that everything's gutted. It's just the bolts right back here, which it's pretty dark right now, but really simple bolts, and then the clevis which attach to the pedal itself, and then that just pulls right out. So I'm gonna take that off real quick and then get started right behind the booster and all of these crevices right there. Brake booster as well as the clutch master cylinder and the throttle cable are all taken off right now, and we have essentially a bare engine bay. I'm not taking out the subframe just yet because I still want to be able to put it on its wheels and roll it around. I think before I do the final when I'm done sanding everything and whatnot, I kind of want to put it outside and pressure wash it all before I actually start the welding, just so I can get all the little crevices nice and clean. I'm not 100% sure if I'm still going to do that. We'll address that as it comes, but I'm still going to keep the subframe on for now. But we definitely do want to take it out in the future so then we can actually have it powder coated and have it all nice. I think I'm going to be doing some gold accents along the whole engine bay, which is what I want the subframe to be. I really like it to be a nice gold color. But yeah, I'll just start working on the seam sealer, finish off what we have left. The big parts are going to be, like I said, right over here under where the brake booster and the clutch master used to be, as well as around here on the steering portion of it. And yeah, let me just set up the time lapse real quick and I'll continue doing that, and I should be done with it pretty soon. So yeah, I'm actually not going to time lapse that just because I've pretty much showed you how to do the rest of it. It's very simple, just with the wire wheels, just cleaning it all up, and I'll show you how it looks right after. So right now I have my angle grinder, a little sanding disc. I'm going to bring down this kind of stuff right here. This is from the last time that I worked on the engine bay. It's not really focusing. Let me show you. I'll zoom in a little bit. There were little studs that stick out from the firewall itself, so I cut them down, but they're not flat with the rest of the firewall. Got one right there. I've already ground this one down a little bit, just need to clean it up a little bit more. There's a few different spots with this, so I can get these down right now and start smoothing this out. Then there's some self tappers on the inside of the engine, or on the inside of the passenger compartment, that I just need to take off. I think they were holding up certain parts of the flat dashboard that we had made. So yeah, I'll start grinding that down right now and then show you how it looks nice and clean. Alright, so those are nice and smooth right now, as well as this one right here. Once that has a little bit of Bondo just to make it level with everything else, as well as some primer that is going to be basically invisible. Yeah, so that one's pretty good right there. I think I can actually start stripping the paint, which I want to get as much as possible. I did a little bit of sanding right here with this grinder, just to show you the different levels of paint that were already on it. I'm not sure if it's focusing correctly right now, but we have bare metal right there, then we have a little bit of primer, then afterwards there was some orange paint, then the red paint, or after the orange paint, then a little bit more primer, and then the red paint. So this right there, I remember we were testing out different colors, and it was stupid a couple years ago, but we really need to get this down to bare metal especially. The rest of it, we could just use the wire wheel, but I think that might take a little bit longer, so we're going to use that the spray aircraft paint remover just to get the big stuff off. Before I do that, I want to take all these little tiny bolts off, like these nuts that are just hanging there holding the suspension components on. And once we get to that point, I still have this brake line in the way, but that's not protruding or bothering anything right now. But yeah, I'll start stripping most of the paint right now and getting that nice and clean. Along with the aircraft paint remover, what's really going to help is just a little scraper, just to get the paint like taken off right there. And yeah. Alright, so we're about to start on the aircraft paint remover that we got at Advanced Auto Parts. For the instructions, it says that you have to shake it up really well, basically like any other spray product for the most part. Then for the part 2 of the instructions, it says that after you spray it on, you basically have to leave it on for about 45 minutes to get the maximum paint lift before you actually start using a plastic or metal scraper to get everything off. So right here I have my little brush. I'm just going to get the big stuff off. That way the aircraft paint remover can actually penetrate onto the paint instead of onto just random dust. It also mentions that you only want to do about 3 square foot at a time. That, I'd say, since there are a lot of curves, I'd probably do only this corner right now, then do the firewall, and then do the other side. But especially since this was the portion that I was saying that has all that big buildup of old paint, that's where we want to start, really. So I'm just going to spray it about 8 inches away. And I did drop the suspension components off already, that being the camber kit and the coilovers, just so it's nice and clean up here. And keep in mind, you should be wearing a mask with this and some eye protective gear. I ran out of little facial masks, so I'm in a well-ventilated area right now. I have all the doors around me open. But if you are doing this at home, I would definitely wear a mask. Whew, that stinks. I'm not going to do the core support right now. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to keep this core support or go with like an aftermarket tubular one. So I'm not too worried about this at the moment. I just really want to get this portion that especially has all the little holes that I want to weld up first. And then we can continue from that point forward. Now, I've seen this stuff in the past work within 2-3 minutes when the paint starts getting softened up, but it does say 45 minutes. We're probably going to end up waiting about 20 minutes, so it's really nice and soft and we can take it all off. It's not really crazy thick paint or anything. It's not like it's the outside of a car paint. So we're going to take advantage of that time in the meanwhile and start cleaning up the garage a little bit. I can't stress enough how much easier it is to work in a clean environment. So I just want to get this all organized real quick and then continue with the paint removal after that. So it's been about 10 minutes with that stuff working on the paint, and you can see right there it just like scrapes off super easily. This is basically just with a little piece of cardboard pulling off the paint. Look at this. Not even a razor or nothing. Really easy comes off. So I'm gonna take like the top layer off, and then I'll probably scrape or spray a little bit more so it comes off a lot easier on the bottom part and get all this you know, all the paint off of it. Quick update, using the aircraft paint remover, I want to say it took about maybe 60% of the paint of the whole area that we had there. I ended up only leaving it on for about 30, maybe even 40 minutes, not the full 45, but it takes off the paint, I'm not gonna lie. I'd rather just do it with a little bit of sandpaper. I have a little piece right there that I was working on. Or the wire wheel, to be honest with you. After comparing doing the aircraft paint remover versus just doing the wire wheel over here, for example, takes up all the paint perfectly without a huge mess, just gives you the powder instead of like flaking chunks of ooze and whatnot. Like I'll show you right here in the trash can. There was like a whole bunch of like running paint and whatnot. I really didn't like how it ended up working. Now, mind you, I've used aircraft paint remover, that right there, on other things in the past, like wheels or flat objects or even hoods before when I was taking clear off. And it works well, but I just think it's not the right use for all the curves and whatnot of the engine bay. So I tried it on this side. Now it's going to be a little bit harder to get all the paint off using wire wheel and sandpaper than just starting like that from the beginning. But Now we learned. You guys can know at home that I don't think that it's a great way to use it. But that being said, we did learn. I'm taking it as a learning experience. I'm completely fine with it. Now I'm going to keep on taking all the paint off just with regular sandpaper and wire wheel, like I said. Really getting it prepped up for the first portion of the shaving that I'm going to be doing is welding up all the little holes. So that means like all these little holes right here, and then sanding them flat after I weld them. And obviously once we get to the Bondo stage, we'll Bondo over it. But right now I just want to get as much bare metal exposed as I can, and then continue from that portion forward. So I ended up getting a little bit more off of the passenger side shock tower. I started working a little bit on the driver's side as well. And if you can see, I started jabbing at a few different spots on the firewall. I kind of wanted to give a second and say that I'm about to wrap up this video, but for a reason. This video was going to be the seam sealer removal as well as the paint removal for the whole engine bay. But as I was working through it, I figured, you know what, I might as well just get the big portions that I'll be welding off. I'll get those areas sanded down or wire wheeled down. That way, once I weld everything up that I need to weld, I can do the final prep and sand on the whole engine bay instead of having to do double the work. If you guys follow me, you know what I mean. Here's one example. So on all these little areas down here, right there, those are all little holes that I'm gonna end up welding shut. So those those holes that I'm welding shut is what I'm prepping at the moment. Once I'm done welding everything, like you can see these right here, also to make the shock tower really nice. Once I'm done with that, I can actually shave it down with the sanding disc, and then after that, actually go for the sand of the whole engine bay, whatever's left at least. And from that point forward, I can also weld on the plates. And then once all the welding and shaving is done, that's when we start doing the Bondo and everything else afterwards. So as a quick update, I'm just going to end this video right here. I'll give you guys a little introduction for the next one. Right here, I have the Chicago welder that I picked up at Harbor Freight a couple days ago that you guys saw in the first installment of this series. I actually just hooked it up right now. Big thank you to Brandon for being able to wire that up the other day. And we just did our first test weld, which if you look right here, you can't even notice it. You see any holes? It's not perfect because I sanded it down already, but right here were two holes exactly like these, and I welded them shut and ground them down. And right here there was another one, welded it shut and ground it down. You can't even notice that it was there. Now obviously it still is a little bit wavy, which is what the Bondo is going to correct. Any little imperfection, then that's going to take care of it. But all these little tiny holes, super easy to weld shut. But don't worry about that. I'll be doing a full video on that, which is going to be the part 3 of this series. I might actually start that video later on this afternoon, but right now my garage is a mess. I really need to move everything around and get it cleaned up so then I can feel more comfortable. Like I said earlier, guys, I can't stress enough how much better you work when your garage or your workspace is a lot cleaner. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now, clean up the whole garage, set up the welder. I'll try to edit this video so I can get it out for you tomorrow, which should be Wednesday if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to shoot to release this on Wednesday. And then I can actually show you guys step 3, which is going to be the fun stuff, which is what I've been waiting for, actually welding on this engine bay to get it to where I want it to be. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, I really do appreciate the support. If you have any questions whatsoever, leave them down in the comment section below. I try to read every single comment, although I might not get back to each and every one of them. If you want to get a more direct answer, just shoot me an Instagram message at Slowintegra and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already, and if you aren't subscribed, make sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.